Hey, it's Melanie Benson here, America's leading small business optimizer, and I want to welcome you to our brand new Success Optimizer series. And of course, I had to have a fabulous guest to kick things off today. So grab a pen, grab some paper. This is the kind of series that you're going to get so many golden nuggets and so many great insights, and you won't want to miss anything. So make sure you soak it all in and get ready to get into some massive action to make the business you have work 10 times better. So let me introduce one of my favorite people on the planet and a really good friend, Jim Palmer. Jim is a marketing and business building expert and host of Newsletter Guru TV and Stick Like Glue Radio. He is known internationally as the Newsletter Guru and the go-to person for maximizing the profitability of customer relationships. And I got to tell you, I have learned so much from Jim over the years about retention and being able to make the clients you have stay longer and want to buy more. I mean, he's a genius in this area, and hopefully we'll get him to spill some of his tips around that in a little bit. And you can find out more about Jim at thenewsletterguru.com. So Jim, welcome to the Small Business Optimizer series.
Oh, thank you, Melanie. It's my honor, privilege, and pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you. Oh, it's so fun to have you too. You know, Jim and I go way, way back. I don't want to date us or anything, but let's just say way, way back. And, you know, it's something that's quite a testament, and I think it's part of what we all want to stay connected to as we optimize our business, is the idea that sometimes the networking and the events and the clients and the people who you're attracted to at one stage of your business, when you really nurture those relationships and you create a business that's meant to last, these people continue to grow with you and expand with you, and you know that relationship may evolve. But I'd say, Jim, that's quite a testament for us, because you started with being one of the clients in one of my old programs, and then we just kept finding our relationship evolve.
That was so we said we wouldn't date ourselves, but man, I became a fan of yours, well, probably seven years ago, maybe. And, oh, goodness. But, you know, I learned so much from you, Melanie, and then, you know, we became friends, which was awesome, and just started helping each other, been in mastermind groups together. But, you know, you said something really important, and that is, it is the relationship. You know, so many people tend to bounce from one new relationship to the next, and they want to grow their business. Well, we need more and more and more new, but that's really not the right way to do it these days. It is all about building stronger, healthier, dependable, profitable relationships. That's going to really move your business to the next level.
Yeah, and you know, that's a great way to kick things off too, because I think that has a little bit to do with why you decided to build the business that you have, where everything's focused on the Newsletter Guru. So maybe you can kind of fill us in a little bit. What was the catalyst, and maybe share with us just a little bit what Newsletter Guru is all about.
Sure. You know, when I started my first business, coming up on 13 years ago in a couple months, you know, I was writing and designing newsletters one-on-one with companies, corporations, nonprofits. And over 4 years, I built a nice little business. But then my wife, Stephanie, asked a very important question one night. We were sitting out back here after dinner, and she goes, you know, when are we going on vacation? We haven't been on vacation in like almost 5 years since you started your business. And it was that moment I realized, my goodness, I can't go on vacation, not because we couldn't afford it, you know, but I was a chief cook and bottle washer of that business. And so I had to find a way to transition into a different type of business and expand, you know, influence, expand, you know, the scope of what I was offering, and essentially get more clients using the power of leverage and the internet and things like that. But the main reason I got into that business, or any business, in the first business, was I wanted freedom. It's like so many people, I wanted to control my own destiny. I had been through kind of a bad scene with unemployment and first getting cancer, and I said, I got to get control of my life. So I knew being a business owner would do that for me.
That is so powerful, and I think leverage is one of the keys to optimizing any business. So that's one of my favorite words, leverage, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about that. So I think one of the keys that a lot of people miss, and especially when they're starting out or maybe when they're making a shift and transitioning, is they're not really clear what problem their business solves for people. And I know you have a really distinct problem that you solve. Would you share it with us, and why? Maybe tell us a little bit about why this is so valuable to a small business owner.
You know, the problem we solve is that customers don't stay long enough. We know, Melanie, that customers that stay longer, and I'll say customers, clients, and patients, but I'll just say one word just for the sake of time. But when customers stay connected with your business longer through a very robust and real strategy called retention, you know, the relationship gets stronger. You know, they buy more of your products, not just reordering, they discover you have a whole bunch of different ways that you can help them solve problems, grow their business, make it more profitable, help them enjoy their life. Whatever you're doing in your business, the price resistance goes down, you get more referrals. So it is all about nurturing and growing that relationship. It just so happens, again, as I said earlier, most people aren't great at that. They think when I need to grow my business, expand my profits, go get more new customers. And that's really, it takes longer, it's more expensive, it's not the best way to do that. So the specific problem that I think we solve really well is we solve the problem of retention. Now, my business, what I'm best known for, is newsletter marketing, because newsletter as a tool, it's one of the best customer relationship building tools there is on the planet, but it does take a little bit of time and effort and what do you put in it. So people struggle with it, and because people are busy and they struggle, it never gets done. So we came into it solving that specific need, which is how to get a newsletter done so you can build stronger relationships and get more business.
And, you know, one of the things I love about what you guys do with the newsletter side of things, and I think you've found a way to optimize your talent and the thing you do really well there by offering different ways, like through social media and by having your master resellers. You found ways to not only leverage your core offering and monetize it with different solutions, but you're also able to scale something and make it not about you being the hub and the core service, if you will, that you know makes money for the business. And I think that's one of the things that gets a lot of people stuck is, how do I make money if it's not me, especially if you're a service-based business owner?
Yeah, you know, and so in 2006, so as I, you know, when Stephanie and I went through that, oh my gosh, how are we going on vacation? That was like 2005 or so. And so I spent the next year kind of re-engineering my business. My first business doesn't even exist today, but I discovered you in 2006. I started learning about leverage and getting other people to help you grow things, since I was doing it all by myself. That was when I actually first read Think and Grow Rich. I learned the power of, you know, the positive, your imagination, your subconscious mind. And I realized, Melanie, that my skill and my talent was writing newsletters and designing newsletters that help build your business. But I wanted to find a way, instead of just doing a newsletter whatever time it took me and then getting paid by one client, I wanted to get paid by many people. Mm-hmm. And that was really the genesis for starting No Hassle Newsletters, was providing content to people all over the country that already had newsletters, but they struggled with the content. That was where it actually started with just content. Now we've evolved, as you know, into done-for-you templates of all different kinds and printing and mailing. We've really mushroomed this thing, but it all started with solving the problem of how do you get a newsletter done, and using the internet and things like that to really reach people well outside of Chester County, Pennsylvania, which is where I live.
And with all that growth and that scaling of what you do, usually that creates higher class problems and growth challenges. Yep. So was there a challenge that started to crop up for you when all of this great activity started to happen, and lots of growth and lots of new revenue sources? What else started happening?
Well, what started happening is I started, again, as I was growing and doing all these different things, I was still chief cook and bottle washer, although in my mind I was growing a bigger business. And when I started following some of your teachings on leverage and using virtual assistants, I think I first learned of the term VA from you and your programs. And so once I learned that, because I basically had a business plan that almost had one line: no employees. I did not want employees. I've been in retail for so long and had many employees, and that's not something I want to deal with. So in my head, I didn't know what the other way is. Once I learned about virtual assistants, I started 1, 2, 3, and started opening up and giving them responsibilities. It freed me up to become the marketer, the visionary, to do the higher level, what I call high revenue generating tasks in my business. Now, it sounds good. Wow, look at Jim's transformation. It's years in the making, and I still struggle, because Melanie, you know what most entrepreneurs struggle with, even very successful ones, is letting go.
Yeah.
How do I let go? And really, I've let go of almost everything that I can let go of at this point. I've got 9 VAs that help me run my businesses, so I can literally take off and things will keep running. But, well, how do I let go? I see some of the recurring credit card charges are declining, or what about this? Or somebody's emailing about a problem. Who's handling that? So I got to put people in place. We created systems and procedures. It just took some time. I don't have to look at any of that anymore. And it's very, very relieving, but it's also contributed in a great way to my growth, because as that freed up my time from doing really what you would have to call mundane tasks, it allowed me to write books. I'm writing my 5th book now. It allowed me to go out and speak and do all these different things. Again, what I would consider higher level things than just monitoring, the daily credit card transactions.
Yeah, and you said some really key things that I think could be really valuable for someone, no matter what stage of building a team and kind of scaling their growth, that would be pivotal. And one is, at a certain point when you're the everything to the business, you've got to start letting go, and that might mean hiring a couple people. But one of the things that I watched you do, and I think this is a misnomer, or maybe something that people don't realize, is that as you continue to grow, the scale of your team and the what you hand off is going to drastically change. And I remember a conversation we had at one point where that letting go was taking on a whole new form. It wasn't just, okay, I've got to have somebody handle this task. It became, I've got to stop being the person who tracks every single thing that happens in the business. Yeah. And that's a scary but very powerful moment in any entrepreneur's life. And I think it's actually like a rite of passage that says, woohoo, I'm ready to really get big, right?
There's certain things you shouldn't let go of. Like, you shouldn't let go of any legal, you shouldn't let go of the checkbook, and you shouldn't let go of your marketing, I think, are the 3 biggies. Mm-hmm. But when I say you shouldn't let go of the checkbook, that doesn't mean, I'm the only one with check writing authority, but it doesn't mean I have to track every transaction that goes in and out the door. And as I say, my business is largely based on recurring charges because it's a membership program. So we created a system that says when somebody declines, we notify them X number of times. It's automated too, by the way, through email, but we phone call, we send postcards if they're not responding. There's a whole system. And once I put that in place and I have somebody that I completely trust and make sure they follow it, I let it go. And, for the first few weeks or maybe even a couple of months, I want them to go in there and look and see what's happening. Hey, how's Jim? It's under control. And, we're all, Melanie, we're all works in progress. So a couple of months ago, I was having a sale, and it was over my birthday, so it was in June. And somebody on a Saturday night, so I was sitting there watching TV, which probably like you, I had my laptop open, right? And I see an email coming to support that says, hey, I'm trying to order, and the coupon's not working. In most cases, turns out they're not hitting apply. But so I quickly forwarded the email to one of my assistants, and no sooner did I email it, she replies back, I've already talked to the person. And I wrote back, red-faced, because, I didn't let go. But it's steps like that let you know, okay, everything's working, let it go.
When we walk people through the Build Your Dream Team program, one of the biggest concerns I always hear is, how do I make sure everything gets done right? And you hit the nail on the head when you said systems and procedures, but I think there's another piece, and I truly believe you've done this, but when you're not getting the results you want, it can be a factor, and that is that you haven't hired the right people or you haven't really given ownership.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key that you found to really freeing yourself up and being able to let go, is you've got people who are taking ownership of the roles rather than just waiting for you to tell them what to do. And that might be an aha moment in itself for some people.
It really is. When you first of all, I believe trust, until people prove not to be trustworthy. But when we talk about systems and procedures, not only is it good so you can let go, but I'm always thinking 5 or 10 years down the road, I want to cash out. I want to go sit on the beach or drive my boat or whatever I want to do. And so somebody that's going to buy your business wants to buy a business that can run the minute you exit the door, right? So you need to have, not only do you need to have recurring income, a customer list, but you have to have systems and procedures in place so that when it is time, and you always want to be planning this years in advance. Somebody watching us right now, well, I'm not going to be selling for 5, 10 years. It's start now. Build the system, build the business that you want 5 or 10 years down the road, because there's no time you're going to automatically shift later. So do it now. and it'll pay dividends now as you're in the freedom you have, but it'll also pay dividends later when it's time to cash out your big asset.
Yeah, that's really good input. So, I know a game-changing moment for you was hiring the team. Was there any other ahas that you think are really significant, that somebody listening to this, it could really be a game changer for them?
One of the big ahas, and it was, again, probably just a little bit growing as I keep studying. I have a big bookshelf behind me, and that's only half of it. Most of it's downstairs. But what I heard that you're going to get paid infinitely more for who you are than what you do. So, for example, there could be tons of people, I'm sure there are, that produce newsletters. But when you focus on who you are and create, celebrity expertise with your brand and or you, depending how your business is structured, that's going to draw people to you, and you're going to be able to actually make more money doing that. But, one of the other ahas, so that's kind of a marketing aha, but the other big aha, and so this is important, I think, for what we just talked about, is this is one area of your business, Melanie. I'm talking about hiring the staff, support staff, whatever that looks like, virtual or otherwise. It always seems to put the cart before the horse. And a lot of people don't want to do that. They get to a point where they say, well, when my business gets here, I'm going to get an assistant. But you know what? A lot of times, you're never going to get there until you get the help to get the things done. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. It's always, and almost every time, and I think I hired my 9th person about a year ago. I haven't hired somebody since. But it was always like, well, I don't quite need them. But if I bring them on now, they're going to be fully trained and ready to go as if I needed them in 3 or 4 months. So it is always putting the cart before the horse. But what I've learned, and it's really took me 7, 8, 9 times, is that if I sit down on a normal day, and the way I structure my business is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is either interviews, coaching calls, Monday and Friday are bookend production days, or if I want to extend the weekend. But when I sit down on those days, I know what's going to happen because it's all on the calendar. But that comes from having a team that does that, and it comes from trusting people that just put things in there so you know what to do. But the other fun part about it occasionally is, and it happened today actually, I found myself with an hour to kill. And so that for me is, I'm doing my 5th book now. I got 2 more chapters to write, so I just, it's not morning. I'm usually writing and creating in the morning, but I said, well, let me just open that Word doc and see what comes out. And so if I didn't have my team in place, I guarantee my inbox, or I'd have my to-do list of, check this, do that. And therefore, those high revenue generating activities don't get done.
Yeah, and I love that you just brought up the high revenue generating activities, because that's the whole point of hiring and building these systems and creating the machine that runs our business. Because if we're not focused on our highest payoff activities, how do you know, you're not really going to be able to be profitable, and there's certainly going to be a slower rate of growth because you're chasing a lot of things that aren't paying off. So I love that you brought that up. I think one of the things that entrepreneurs and small business owners face is the gremlins that are up here in their head, right?
Yeah, the old head trash.
Yeah, the old head trash. And I know for me, there's several little shifters that I use to kind of turn off the noise in my head and get my brain focused on the right things. And I'll share one of them in a minute that was kind of tied into your aha moment. But I was curious, what's your mantra or something that you use to kind of remind yourself what's important and where you need to be focused as a business owner?
Well, there's one I'm going to give you, but something else just popped into my head, that little voice that's always chattering in there. Tell them this, Jim. So, I'll give you the mantra first.
Okay.
And it came from a great friend of ours, mutual friend, Adam. And he said, focus more on marketing and growing what you have now instead of always looking to create something new. Mm-hmm. And I think as entrepreneurs, everybody probably watching this suffers from shiny object syndrome. So whether you read about something, it looks cool, this new strategy, I got to do this, I got to do that, someone calls the phone, hey, I got a great JV. Those are all shiny objects, and they all detract and take you away from the focus you have. And so if you think about it, I've done pretty well with my core business, but when I think about how many entrepreneurs and small business owners there are just in the United States, I haven't even scratched the top level of the surface. And so instead of saying, yeah, I'm kind of bored, I want to create something new, just keep focusing on the core programs that you have now. So that's probably the big attitude shifter.
I love that one, by the way. It's almost like a game changer in a sense that when you learn to make what you have work better and be able to penetrate your marketplace more deeply,
Yep.
it allows you to realize that creating more stuff isn't always the fast path to more success. It's actually the longer path because you've got to optimize each and every one of those things that you create. So
Yeah.
glad
There's
you shared
another
that.
one. I think it's an attitude shifter, and I find it, I mean, it's always true. I've been coaching like you. I've been doing it for about 5 years now. And as I talk to more entrepreneurs, especially in, let's just be honest, it's kind of a crappy economy, but what I find is that entrepreneurs and small business owners are making more decisions based on fear or boredom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I'll break that down real quick. So if you have a bad week, a bad month, or a bad quarter, you're likely to make a decision whether it's to invest or not invest, or whether to do this, that, or the other thing based on fear, like either hoard your cash, preserve your cash, or don't invest your cash, because you're basing it on fear, and that's short term. You should always be making decisions based on the best long-term interest of your business. In my own business, I've invested heavily this year, as you know, in this new program. I've created these industry-specific templates. So, I mean, I've created multiple websites, multiple advertising, everything from online and offline. And it's a little slower than I would have hoped getting started, but I'm still investing because I know there's going to be a payday. But, every month when I write that check to the company that's helping me, it's like gold. But, you always have to invest in your future growth and profitability. If you pull your horns in and stick your head in the sand, that it will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So even if you're only a little slow, you are going to slow down. So that's one thing. Doggone, what was the other thing I was going to tell you?
Well, while you let your brain catch up, that actually is what I'm going to apply that same concept to one of my favorite mantras, and that is invest in the team that will help you achieve the dream.
Yes.
And, this idea that we're always investing in the future business that we want, I think that ties in with what you're saying earlier, that a lot of times we hold back